It is more beneficial than burdensome. And the more that we put into it, the more that we put into them, the more we will get back. US immigration has been a hotbed issue for decades now, but I've realized a lot of people largely still don't understand what drives immigration and the benefit it can bring an economy. And that's because elected Republicans have spent a lot of time and money convincing you that they are a detriment, largely because they don't vote conservative, and that scares the hell out of the right. But immigrants actually provide a major stimulant to an economy, help pay into things like Social Security, and yes, this even goes for undocumented immigrants, all while committing less crime, not affecting public systems in the way you may think, and in lots of cases, they are brought here directly or indirectly through the US involvement in their country through sanctions or coups. So let's first run through all the benefits, and then we'll break down the correlation and causation that sanctions have with immigration. The biggest talking points for undocumented immigrants is their reliance on public systems without paying taxes, though even undocumented immigrants largely still do pay taxes through something called ITINs, which allow immigrants without a social security number to legally file taxes on the income they make. And a study out of Texas showed that for every $1 spent on undocumented immigrants, the state collected $1.21 in revenue, thus bringing a profit. They only had a 5% unemployment rate working in construction, agriculture, and manufacturing, and Texas collected $2.4 billion total in state taxes from undocumented immigrants in that year, while only spending $2 billion on them. If deported, Texas would lose a total of $70 billion, 8% of the state's employment compensation, and they had a net benefit of over $400 million just from undocumented immigrants. Studies have also shown how entire sectors in our economy rely on this labor from undocumented immigrants. Studies have shown that enforcement-only approaches to immigration would directly lead to a 5 to 6% increase in food prices for everyone, with a 15 to 30% drop in net income for farms that would cause a lot of them to go under and would probably then further raise the price of food. Undocumented immigrants pay $15 billion a year into Social Security, all while not even receiving these benefits. And when calculated, they've paid nearly 10% or $300 billion, for the less inclined at math here, of our Social Security trust fund. They, on average, pay 8% of their income into taxes. The top 1% of earners in this country, on average, pay 5.4% of their income into taxes. So they are contributing less than undocumented immigrants. Undocumented immigrants will add over $600 billion to Social Security in the next 75 years. When people say we rely on them to upkeep this, they are not joking. Cutting it off would increase the Social Security deficit by 31%. Something that would increase your taxes because the top 1% aren't paying for that, I can assure you. This is all while they are equally or less likely to use welfare or social services than our native-born workers. This is also all while being much more likely to create jobs than they are to take them. And when they do enter the workforce as employees instead of employers, they have an overall positive effect on wages in the workforce, only smallly negatively affecting US-born high school dropouts, but at a 0.2 negative regression. Economists argue that these low-skilled workers would hardly feel any changes if immigrants were removed from the workforce, so it's not like a benefit in having them removed. And these low-skilled workers are actually more likely to leave their job for a new job rather than stay there. And when they leave, it's usually a vertical move that ends up paying them more in the long run, and multiple studies affirm this. So why do people come to America becomes the main question, right? Well, when polled, most people cite economic or humanitarian reasons as why they left their country and came to America. But you have to ask yourself, what causes these reasons? Is it just the countries themselves? No. A large cause of them are the sanctions that US imposes on these countries. The percent of countries we've imposed sanctions on has grown from, I think, less than 5 countries to 54 countries or more, which is like around 30% of all countries. And studies have shown that US sanctions have the greatest effect, increasing migration from these countries by 24%. And 86% over the term of multiple year sanctions that stay in place. GDP drops almost 3% with no signs of recovery even years after sanctions are released. Sanctions increase poverty in targeted countries by 4 to 8%, with that also gradually increasing with the length of the sanction in the country. Life expectancy decreases in these countries over an entire year when sanctions are imposed. Also, the infection rate of HIV rises even in children, with the death rate of AIDS also going up in these countries. But that's not all. US sanctions also directly increase mortality by 35% in these target countries. And remarkably, our US sanctions have led to 4 times as many deaths as the Civil War. So the main reasons that people immigrate to America from their countries is economic reasons, better future for their kids, and humanitarian reasons. We showed that in the polls. US sanctions exacerbate humanitarian issues, economic issues, and poverty or disease-ridden issues, even in children, clearly highlighting the causation here. Immigrating fixes the problem that our sanctions cause, and it drives way more low-skilled immigration into our country. If we were to remove these sanctions, that would drop off a cliff. This low-skilled immigration is exactly the type that puts any bit of a strain on our public system or on the low-skilled native workers. We would be seeing instead, if sanctions were removed, only high-skilled workers would be immigrating from their countries to America for the opportunity and thus giving back to our economy. This is the true way to tackle immigration. Remove sanctions, make it easier for those who are willing to contribute, but as long as we're forcing people to flee their country for desperation and not opportunity, we're going to be one of the destinations they head to, and we're not going to be receiving as much benefit as we should. Immigration does not have to be an issue. It can, and it is more beneficial than burdensome. And the more that we put into it, the more that we put into them, the more we will get back. If you enjoyed this video, we're Social Society. We're a commentary channel influenced by politics, society, and the economy. We are pretty left-leaning on this channel, but we're open to our right-wingers as well. The biggest thing here is having conversations that get everyone to the bottom of the truth. If that sounds like something that could interest you, consider smashing that subscribe button, leaving us a like, or even commenting on this video, because the only way we become a society is together.